Hello, welcome to the 7th in a series of training videos for the HCSS mobile application. This video today is going to focus on cost codes. We're going to learn how to add cost codes to the time card, how to remove them, how to enter production quantities, how to enter cost code node, and some other tools associated with cost code. As always, to start, we'll tap on the HCSS field icon on your mobile device, which brings us to the main screen. Before proceeding any further with anything, diary, photo, time card, anything, you always want to look and make sure that you have the correct job open. The job will be listed across the top of this screen. If you need to select a different job, tap on Select Job, and that will take you to a list of all the available jobs. The recent jobs will be listed on top, all other available jobs below that. Locate and select the job and come back to the main screen and you're ready to go. We will start by tapping on the time card module. And the next thing you want to do is always check and make sure that you have the correct date. If the date shown in the top left here is not correct, tap on that date. It will take you to your calendar. You can select the correct date from the calendar. Once you select that date, it will take you back to the time card screen. Now, if you copy a previous time card, the cost codes will copy with that. But today's video is going to focus on adding the cost codes manually. So we'll begin by tapping on the button that says Tap to Add Cost Codes. We're going to go through some of the tools on this screen to make it easier for you to find and select the cost codes that you need. The first tool is the filter. If you tap on filter, and if your location's management team has set up work type filters, that can be very useful for selecting your cost codes. In this job, I have numerous filters set up, and you can see that as I scroll this list, each filter is being applied to the list of cost codes. So on that base filter, I only had one cost code for base. If I look at bollards, for example, I have 3 cost codes for bollards that have the work type bollard, and that's the way that filter works. So for example, if you want to look at grading cost codes and say done, you have a list of all of the cost codes have been assigned the work type grade, and you can actually select from here. For example, I'll select the cut to fill scraper, moves it from the left side to the right side. I can go back to the filter and easily change it to another work type. Tap done, and now I've got some cost codes for removals. So if I'm going to remove storm pipe, for example, or remove electric and phone, I can add those cost codes to my time card. If I get a cost code on here that I don't want, I can tap on that cost code and delete it from the list. Return to the filter, change your filter, look for other items, or tap reset and done to take you back to the full list of cost codes. So most of the time, just sort by code is the best option. The final tool that we'll look at here is the search tool. Search tool is probably the most valuable for selecting your cost codes. Tap in the search window and the blinking cursor will show up on the left-hand side. You can search by a numeric code for your cost code or by an alphanumeric description. If I change my keypad to numbers, let's say I search for a 304, and you can see that all of the codes contain the numbers 304, but as I get down further on the list, I start seeing cost codes that actually begin with 304. As you type additional characters, maybe I add a 3, and now you can see where I'm getting somewhere with the search, where I'm just seeing cost codes that begin with the first 4 characters, 3043. To clear the search, tap the X, and now you can search by description. So maybe I want to search for place, and I have some codes now that have the word place in the description. Place and compact CTB. Maybe I'll select that cost code. Tap the X again to get back to the full list. Final tool here is the refresh button. The double green arrows will refresh. If you tap on that, will refresh your cost code list from the cloud. So if you're looking for a particular cost code, you don't see it on this list, and you have a valid internet connection, go ahead and tap on the refresh and refresh your list of cost codes. Always, if you're not sure what the cost code should be, contact somebody in the management team, your project engineer, here and ask them which cost code to use. Once I've selected my cost code, you can tap on the 3 bars on the right side and rearrange those codes. You can put those codes in any order that you like. I've already shown you that you can delete a cost code from here, but you can also change a cost code. That second option that says replace this code with a different code. If you've already got employees and equipment on your time card and you have hours under a cost code and you realize that it's the wrong cost code, come back to this screen, select the code that you want to replace first. I'm on that last code. Tap that second option. It will bring up a list of all the cost codes again. You'll have to scroll the list. There's no search here, but once you find the code that you want to replace the original code, tap on it and it will replace that code and it will keep your employee and equipment hours on the time card. And that's it for adding the cost code. Once you have your list built, tap done, and you'll see all of those cost codes added to your time card. To continue with the process, I'm going to tap on the box that says add quantity for that first cost code. All of these screens look the same. Each cost code detail screen starts with the production quantity tab. You can see that there are 3 tabs: production quantity, notes, and estimate info. The estimate info will only show up if your cost code has information that was exported from the estimating program into Heavy Job. Production quantity, the screen shows my budget quantity, my to-date quantity, and a numeric entry pad so I can put in today's quantity. So placing compact CTB, let's say I did 500 tons. The next step, I've got my quantity in there. The next step is to go to the notes. The cost code note is divided into 3 sections. The first section that we'll look at is called note indexes. If you tap on note indexes, if you scroll through this list, you can see all of the different items that have been set up for your cost code, and you can select any of these items. So something as simple as there was a problem today. If you tap on that, it adds that note index, and that makes this searchable. Of course, anytime you use a note index, even on the mobile app, we still want you to tap in the company note private and tell us a little bit more about that note index. I use the note index problem. I would here explain what that problem was. The other 2 items on the note section are the actual cost code note. You have company note private, you have inspector note public. Company note private is what we will use most of the time. The inspector note is typically used for a T&M cost code or on a project where they know in advance that they need to create a report with all of the foreman notes and hand that over to the owner. If you put your note in Inspector Note Public, we can create that report for the owner. If you're working on a project and they need to use Inspector Note Public, they will likely tell you that before you start entering your information. Company Note Private, if you tap in that field, it will bring up your keypad and you can type in any note that you want. The minimum expectation for every cost code note is to provide a location of where the work was done that day. As much detail as you can for that location. So my cost code is placing compact CTB. My note might include the station, the street, the intersection, left side, right side, begin and stop stations, as much information as you can provide for that location. In addition to the location, provide any notes concerning things that affected your production that day. If you had equipment failures, if you had inspection issues, if you had quality control issues, if 2 of your laborers didn't show up, anything that might have affected your production that day should go in that cost code note. One thing I'd like everybody to try is the speech-to-text feature. If your mobile device is equipped with the speech-to-text, most of the time it will show up as a little microphone on the keypad. It does require an active internet connection to use this, but if you give this a try, speak slowly, whatever you say will be typed on your note. So let's see if we can make this work. I'll tap on the microphone. This is my cost code note, period. New paragraph. Today, we work at station 745 plus 00 to station 748 plus 50. So the only thing that it got wrong was my cost code note. It typed boat. I can quickly go in and tap on that, correct that manually. The rest of it pretty much got everything that I said. So I think the more you use the speech to text, the more you'll like. Once I have my note in, I've already entered my production quantity. The third tab is the estimate information. If you don't see that tab there probably isn't estimate information for that cost code. But if you do see that, go ahead and tap on that, because this is the estimate notes that came from the estimator. This is a pretty good note here where they've got some multiple productions, and they've broken this out to show the different locations and what that CTB place production should look like for each of those locations. So you know that this cost code is an average of those 3 different production units per man hour. So you see that on the estimate resources, you see the cost code, you see the number of shifts that were in the estimate, the average shift length, the average number of tons per shift. You also see the crew that went into that estimate. So you can look at the labor and equipment, and you can see the actual crew that was in that estimate. So these estimate notes are very valuable information if they're included in your heavy job setup. One of the nice features about the cost code detail screen is that you don't have to go back to the time card to go to the next cost code. Just tap the arrow and it will move you to the production quantity entry for the next cost code. Again, I see my budget quantity of 50,000 cubic yards on this code. I see my to-date quantity of 43,000. Today I can say I did 500 cubic yards. Go to my notes. I can enter my notes here. Again, minimum expectation is that I enter the location for this work. Any issues that I had, I can go to my estimate info. I can see the different productions by location. I can see the average units, cubic yards per shift, 8-hour shift. I can see the crew that was in that estimate, and I can from here go to the next cost code, enter my quantity. I can actually go back to the first cost code and review or make changes. So you don't ever have to go back to the time card until you're done. Now, before we final this out and return to our time card, look at 3 more options with each cost code. Any cost code can be designated as T&M by checking that box. That box makes it easy for us to track this work in the manager system, to gather it together. If it does turn into something that we can bill out as additional work, time and material, then we've already got it gathered up. If not, it doesn't really hurt anything. A lot of times you will see cost codes, or you will add cost codes to your time card that have already been flagged as T&M, and that T&M checkbox will be checked. If they come in from the manager system checked, please don't uncheck them. The other option here is to flag this cost code as rework. If you tap on that rework checkbox in the manager system, when this cost code is exported to accounting, it will be exported with a special subledger that allows us to track our rework in the accounting software. So all it requires on your part is the checkbox that says this was rework. Your rework quantity will be tracked separately from your production quantity, and you can put the same cost code on your time card twice and have part of the day as in scope, part of the day as rework, or part of the day as in-scope work, part of the day as T&M work, just by putting the same cost code on the time card 2 different times. The final feature, some locations are set up and use cost code tags. If you tap on Add Cost Code Tag, if you see a list here, typical cost code tag might be a bridge number, a structure number, a phase, a roadway section, a wall number, something along those lines. They give us the ability to track this cost code to one more level of detail without creating an additional cost code. If you don't see cost code tags, you can tap on the refresh. It will go out and look and see if any of those tags exist. So if they haven't told you specifically to use cost code tags and you don't see any on the list, there's a good chance that you're not using them on your project. Once you've recorded your production quantities, entered your cost code notes, marked your T&M, marked your rework, all of that, you're ready to tap done and return to the time card. Each cost code that you see now gives a visual representation of what you've done with these small little boxes in each cost code above the production quantity. If you look at the key down at the bottom here, the yellow box is the note, the purple box is T&M, the blue box rework, the turquoise box is cost code tag, and the green box indicates that there's an estimate note. So that's what each one of these mean. At the very least, minimum expectation, you must have a cost code note for every cost code. So if you look up here, as I'm doing, and you see a cost code without a note, that means you need to go back to that cost code and enter some kind of cost code note. Today we backfilled the open bottom catch basin at station 13 plus 92. And that's it for the cost codes. You can always add more cost codes. You can always remove cost codes. You can always change cost codes. The key is to get them as accurate and correct as you can. If you're not sure, call your engineer, call your project manager, find out which codes you should be using. Use the filters, use the search tool, and make sure that you get a cost code note on every cost code and production quantities wherever it makes sense to fill in those production quantities. Thank you for watching today's video.